Hello everyone and welcome to this short video where I am going to look at the Barack Obama endorsement of Joe Biden and going to check which lessons we all can learn from that speech. Now, if you haven't watched the announcement video yet, I would recommend you do so. Watch at least the first 5 minutes so you know what we're actually going to talk about. Like, we all know who Barack Obama is. We've all heard that he's a great speaker, but it's really a good idea to see the man in action before you watch this video. So pause this video right there, take a look at our description, and you'll find a link to that video. And then in 5 to 10 minutes, I'll see you right back here. And we're going to get into the weeds as to what you can learn from this Barack Obama endorsement video. Are you back with us? Great. We're going to look at this video using the key analysis tools of rhetoric. Now, rhetoric is the study of trying to see what makes a good speech. And actually, the core principles of rhetoric have been identified all the way back in ancient Greece by a philosopher named Aristotle. And he looked at three crucial components for how to give a good speech. The first of these is someone's ethos. That is, the right for them to speak and why you should believe this person is a good person you want to listen to. The second is someone's pathos, the emotions that this person conveys. And the third of these is someone's logos, the logical strength of an argument. And we're going to look at how Obama uses each of these three key tools to try and convince you that you should vote for Joe Biden. Let's get started with ethos first. It's important that you understand that a person that you want to vote for is a good person that you would trust in the next election. Because if you don't have a good ethos, no one's going to listen to you in the first place. That is why, for instance, you're far more likely to listen to me because you've already made the decision to click on this video, because you know that we are coming from the International Debate Education Association. And that conveys a certain amount of trust that what this video is going to provide to you is some good content. Now, how does Obama strengthen the ethos of Joe Biden? He does so in two key ways. The first is that he builds up Joe Biden's approachability. He looks at Biden and says, this is a man who's seen it all, but also is a very warm human being. He has supported veterans in the past, and he can do so knowing that he is the father of a veteran himself. But the second thing is that he highlights the current coronavirus crisis. And he says, in this coronavirus crisis, Biden is the one who has the best performance in previous like-minded crises. He stresses how much they've worked together to get America out of the 2008 financial crisis. He stresses that Biden was key in preventing the spread of past pandemics, like the H1N1 swine flu pandemic in 2009, as well as the Ebola crisis. And in doing so, he makes us think that Biden, and he might very well be, a person we can all believe in. Let's then further look at pathos. So, how does Obama strengthen the pathos of his arguments? Let's just look at what he says, but let's look at how he says this. So I'm quoting him around the 6:30 mark. For years, too many of the people who do the essential work of this country have been underpaid, financially stressed, and given too little support. Think about the sentence, and now hear it again, spoken differently. For years, too many of the people who do the essential work of this country have been underpaid, financially stressed, and given too little support. I think the first sentence, and that's also the way in which Obama stresses these sentences, was far more persuasive. What he does is he looks at the words that carry the most meaning in a sentence and that he wants everyone to remember, and he stresses those words. How can you use this trick? If you've written out your speech, underline the words that you think are most crucial to the message, and make sure that when you give that speech, you stress that syllable. So you remember what it is that your key message is. The second trick he does is he uses a lot of the rules of threes. That means that he uses a lot of sum ups where he uses three elements: hopes, dreams, and frustrations. Idea, Biden's championed, energy and enthusiasm, he inspired, and he done so in young people. In those ways, where he makes these sum up that sound like threes, that immediately sounds incredibly good and convincing. It feels like a logical progression, and melodically, it sounds very intact. So when you sum up, when you have a couple of things you want to mention, don't mention a couple, mention three. Keep to the rule of three. And the final thing I want to talk about is the logos that Obama uses. And particularly, I want to look at what is important with looking at who your audience is. So Obama has three key arguments he's laying out in the endorsement speech. Firstly, he explains to us why he thinks Biden is a good candidate. Secondly, he explains to us why Biden's platform is good for Bernie Sanders supporters. And thirdly, he explains to us why he believes that Republicans will be a bad option to vote. And it's important to recognize that he has two things that he wants to do. Firstly, he wants to unite the Democratic Party. So he wants to make sure that people who supported Bernie Sanders are also willing to support Joe Biden. He isn't just speaking for a crowd of people who already agrees with him. He's looking at people who might disagree with him and show why Biden is the better option. That's why he isn't just bringing the first argument. He's actually also telling us why a Biden supporter can see a lot in Biden's platform. Sorry, a Bernie supporter can see a lot in Biden's platform that's very useful. But he's also looks at people who might be on the fence, who might be willing to support either a Republican or a Democrat, and he's telling them, at least don't go for a Republican. If I haven't persuaded you that Biden is the right alternative, at least the Republicans can be a good alternative. The final thing I want to look at in the logos is how he sums things up, because we often have to sum up things in our speeches. Now, he does a little twist in his summary. He, in the final 2 minutes of his speech, reiterates what he has said, but he makes one twist. Rather than explaining what it is that he said, he frames it in a way where he says, you all believe it, and we should all come together, and we should all campaign. And the reason why that's so successful is because he has a goal with that summary, not just to give you the information of what he said and why he thinks it's true, but having a call to action. Why you should vote for Joe Biden and why you should campaign for Joe Biden. And that's then also the key thing you can take away when you look at your summaries. Try and think, what is the goal of your speech and how can I make it compelling? So if your goal is to persuade everyone that you have given the best speech, you've tried to sell something to someone, you want to make sure that someone supports your side of the argument, try to make sure that in that summary, you A, think about your audience, and B, you make sure that the summary stresses the overall goal of your speech. So what have I done for you? I have given you this incredibly, hopefully short and interesting summary of what Barack Obama did to you. I've looked at how he makes sure that he rises to the occasion and therefore uses the ethos for Biden's platform. I've looked at the way in which he uses pathos to strengthen his message using the rule of threes, making sure he stresses the right words. And I've used the logic that he used and how he tailored it exactly to his audience and how he made fantastic use of summaries. Hope this is very useful. You can subscribe to our channel if you want to receive more of these updates. And I wish you all a very good day. I'm done.